I analyzed the 56 new unicorns that raised over $2.85 billion in 2024 to achieve that unicorn status. And I found something very interesting. And in this video, I'm going to unpack it all for you as part of my series of analyzing the new unicorns from 2024. There is one thing that all 56 unicorns did, and I'm going to show you the top 5 examples, as per my analysis, that you can learn from that you should be doing. If you are a founder and you're out there with a startup and you're at the idea stage, or maybe you're just starting to build and you're thinking about raising money, or you're raising money at an early stage right now, you want to keep all of this in mind because maybe you just want to stop and think and integrate, or this is going to be a confirmation of what you're already doing. Before we continue, my name is Ed Kang. If we've met before, there's a timestamp in this video. Just skip ahead right to the start of the video. If we have not met, I'm a 7-time funded founder with 2 exits, and that's just a fancy way of saying I failed a bunch of times to your benefit because I like to use YouTube videos like this and this channel to help founders, especially if you're raising early stage capital, avoid some of the catastrophic mistakes that I've made. Not to say you're not going to make mistakes, but I'm going to try to make your life a little bit easier. I have personally raised over $100 million from my startups, other people's startups, as well as startup funds. And I also work with startups.com, where I'm the chief strategy officer with a team that has raised over $750 million for startups that have gone on to raise billions, go IPO. I oversee 600 founders right now who most of them are raising money. And if you're part of startups.com, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your support. If not, check us out. And while you're here, do the YouTube thing, like, comment, subscribe. Your support is always helpful. Let's jump into what I learned from these 56 new unicorns. The one thing that all of them did is they found a well-timed niche and solved a real problem. And it was a validated problem, but it was a niche or niche, depending on how you want to pronounce it. They say the riches are in the niches. I say niche, but you can say niche. I digress. Find a well-timed niche of a problem and solve it. Now let's look at the top 5 examples that I found. The first is liquid death. Liquid death, I love talking about liquid death because it is so wacky and it is a CPG product, and it's very difficult for CPG products to attain unicorn status. But liquid death got an evaluation like a hyper-growth software startup, and it has been going strong ever since. And how did they do this? Well, first, they are a $1.4 billion valuated company. So they are a unicorn, a CPG company that has made unicorn in very, very short time. But here was their niche. It was sustainable canned water with bold branding. They put water in cans. Think about the niche there. Everybody else is putting water in bottles, plastic bottles. They put it in cans, and they have this crazy branding that everybody walks by and says, is that a can for water? That makes no sense whatsoever. They had such virality because of their niche that when people walk by in the grocery store, they had to take a picture of the cans on the grocery store aisle and send it to their friends. So that was the niche. It really stood out. They put in a can and they put this crazy brand, and you can have a niche when it comes to form factor and brand. On top of which, the problem they were solving is they were tackling plastic waste that resonated with eco-conscious consumers through edgy marketing. So they tackled Gen X and younger through edgy marketing, but they also did this whole campaign of basically liquid death, but they were like death to plastic. And it turned into this whole brand movement. And that was the problem they were solving, is because the problem is that people wanted to know which water to drink, and you needed to give them a reason to pick a different form factor of water. And that's a problem. It's worth talking about this for a moment because a lot of people say, well, I don't really have a problem. Let's say your product is entertainment. Well, the problem is boredom. Or the problem could be there's a gap in a specific type of entertainment that people want, or there's a gap in someone's emotional need to do something with their consumer choices, and that becomes solving an ultimate problem. There are problems that are pain points where you need to get something done, needs to be faster, needs to be cheaper, but then there are ultimate problems like a sense of fulfillment or a choice, self-actualization, identity, security, significance, being able to sleep at night, taking care of your family. There are so many psychological problems that run deeper, and liquid death, just by using a can and cool branding, was able to tap into that, and that's what you should be doing as well. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, mine's software, mine's not going to tap into that type of problem. That's a bunch of BS because you're dealing with people, and if you can go past the pain point and go deeper into this psychological problem, a problem that exists in the essence of who your user is, well, now you're onto something, and you have a faster path, an easier path, clear the runway to get you to unicorn status. So the key lesson for you out there is a unique identity, solving environmental issues, creating market disruption. That's how it all came together if you had to summarize what Liquid Death did to become a unicorn. Now let's look at the next one. This is Bugcrowd. And the first thing is they achieved a $1 billion valuation in 2024. This was their niche, crowdsourced cybersecurity platform. Crowdsourced cybersecurity. That's definitely a niche because out there, pretty much you go to agencies or you hire people, consultants, but this was crowdsourced. We can crowdsource everything else from crowdsource funding to crowdsource creative services like getting a logo designed or getting some artwork done. Why not crowdsource security? Well, obviously, no one has thought about that. That was their niche. So they went and they built this platform for you to crowdsource your cybersecurity. And it says right there, find and fix vulnerabilities faster. Because you're crowdsourcing, you don't have to work through an agency model, which is the pain point that everybody else had by working with these old structures of cybersecurity services. So the problem is that there are hackers everywhere. Hackers are using AI, it's getting advanced, and a lot of these companies, these cybersecurity firms, can't stay ahead of what these hackers are doing. So what do? They say we're going to address it with scalable, ethical hacker networks. And when I heard about this, I actually have a founder right now that I'm working with. He was one of the employees for a long time here at Bugcrowd, and he's starting a competitor, and he introduced me to the concept of ethical hackers. And I said, wait a second, that's a thing? And that makes so much sense. But how do I know how to go get ethical hackers? Well, guess what? There is a platform to do that now. You can crowdsource ethical hacking. Definitely a niche, definitely a problem solving that goes contrarian to the agency model. Let's talk about this for a moment. If you are in an industry where people are relying on manual, old-fashioned agency models, where people ratchet up the price because they're selling their expertise, that is ripe for disruption. First, that's ripe for using AI to disrupt and basically create an agent or service that'll do what the other people did manually, such as consultants. All the analysis now doing AI, consultants are really scared of losing their jobs across the board, from management consulting to technical consulting. So if you find an industry where people are grumbling because they have to pay somebody who's got maybe a degree or who's got tenure, lots of experience, certifications, and they're overpaying when it's just technical, well, now we can fit it into AI and we can put it onto a platform, which is exactly what Bugcrowd did. They're using AI to solve the first layer of the problem. The second is if you can access a pool of talent, workforce, and Y Combinator calls it creating the next 1 million jobs. So instead of getting a job working for a cybersecurity company, why not get a job as a freelance hacker, the same way Uber created new jobs for people just to drive their cars around and provided access to employment outside of taxi drivers? Why not create a platform where you can get an ethical hacker that's going to be hacking away and learning how to do this anyway, create a platform, help them use AI to create a lot more efficiency, but then sometimes you're going to need an actual hacker to work for you. So if you can access a talent pool and you can bring in people, great. But pooling everybody together and saying we're going to have a network of freelancers is not enough anymore unless it hasn't been done yet in your industry. I know so many founders saying we're going to create a network where people can access creative talent. That's been done before. How are you doing it differently? How are you making things more efficient? Or better yet, go to service-based industries that people are overpaying for and they're frustrated with and figure out how to blow all that talent out of the water and start using a new pool of talent and making it come together using AI or other technological innovation. So the lesson, crowdsourcing, create efficiencies and trusted solutions for high demand problems. And that's where this is well timed because getting hacked is becoming an increasing problem. AI, as much as it's helping everybody on one side, is actually helping hackers and creating a lot of liabilities on the other side. That's what you want to figure out if you can create a crowdsourced platform and make it efficient for high demand. They are in high demand problems because the inflection point, there is an increase in that demand where you're going to be golden, headed towards unicorn status. Next, we're talking about Zoom, and Zoom got a valuation of $1.3 billion. What does Zoom do? Well, they're tech-driven school transportation management. Now, I have some personal experience with this. Let's break it down. Transporting students, especially vulnerable students, is a completely different animal. I was actually brought on as the COO for one of these companies, and it was a mess. But when I began researching, I understood the need for it because guess what? schools don't have the infrastructure for all the needs, and there are protocols. What happens if a school has a seizure, or there's issues, or there's security concerns of picking up kids and transporting kids? Anything can go wrong, and you don't want your kids going missing on the school bus. Well, schools now outsource that to service providers, and that's where this company did extremely well. Well, it was all manual, so now all we need is a technological platform to expand and allow as many schools to access it as possible. And that's when I saw this and I said, of course they are now a unicorn. So the problem that they're solving, which I experienced, were outdated logistics and safety concerns in school transportation. I just explained this. And this is rampant all over the place because education, that whole domain of education, academia, is so slow in adopting things. And that's what you're looking at. Academia as a whole is just the slowest moving, ripe for disruption type industry. Same with government, same with a lot of other industries. And you want to be looking at them and saying, what has calcified and created so much rigidness, so many parameters or bureaucracy that it's no longer efficient, while there are technological solutions for that. And so imagine the pain of parents yelling at the school saying, your bus system sucks. We have this security issue. What happens if my child has an allergic reaction on the ride? That is a pain point that the school is willing to pay, and the government is willing to pay as well, for large sums of money to have that problem solved. So the lesson here is innovating underserved essential services. You want to be looking for those essential services that builds loyalty and value. Think about it for a moment. If one solution is taking care of my kids, I've got kids and they're going to school, and you help me with my security. We talked about those ultimate benefits. You help me sleep at night or have peace that my child is being transported safely. You don't think you're going to get loyalty? You don't think I'm going to see all the value and we're going to continue building that relationship together? Well, that is unicorn ready to happen. Now, the next one, growth therapy. This was interesting that it came to the analysis at the top because we achieved a $1.4 billion valuation. But I had to go do some research because I'm like, aren't there other startups that already do this? I can imagine this problem is already solved, such as BetterHelp. But guess what? It's right there. This is a platform for getting therapy. So what happened was I understood that mental health was already a big niche, but there's still demand. The demand had not been met yet. So we're going to go into the niche of mental health. But right there, if you look, it says therapy covered by insurance. And then I did some research and I said, here's the secret. They simplified access to affordable mental health care that accepts insurance. That means their therapists are different. There's a different network of therapists. And I didn't realize that niche was not being served yet because BetterHelp, they don't accept insurance. And therefore, their network of therapists were a little different. So they've done fine. Now, they're a little embattled. There's a little bit of controversy with BetterHelp, but that's what happens when it's not regulated. This is more regulated because you have to accept insurance. So think about this for a moment. Let's say you have a competitor. This is where I believe in something called second mover or last mover advantage. You look at a competitor out there, and obviously there's a power law that is happening. All the value in a certain industry are driven by the top competitors, the top companies. And so first mover advantage, that could lead to fulfilling the power law. However, we saw a really interesting thing happen, and I'm going to go off the beaten path for a moment. Let's talk about this new AI out of China. I think it's called DeepSeek. I'm still doing research on it. And it has come to eat the lunch of the other AI players like OpenAI that raised $6 billion just last year alone. Obviously, they're a massive unicorn. But for $6 million, they're able to train an AI, and this AI is passing tests like crazy. You know what they did? They have last mover's advantage. Not to say they're going to be the last, but they got in the game after by learning what all these other AI companies are doing. What Anthropic is doing, OpenAI, Google is doing. They started to learn, and because they had to focus on a niche and they went open source, that was the difference, and they were restricted in terms of resources, they're so much more efficient. And now everybody on this side of the pond in the US, they're like, wait a second, we thought China was way behind, but China just found their opportunity, and you can too. If there are big incumbent players, find out what they're not doing, where they're efficient, where their gaps are, where the holes are, the underserved, underrepresented, underestimated gaps they have, and try to exploit them. And that's what growth therapy did. They said, wait a second, BetterHelp is not servicing the insurance market. Instead, we're going to do insurance, we're going to accept it, and therefore they have to go through so much more regulation, which is painful for BetterHelp to do. BetterHelp doesn't have to do it because they found less friction in going with other types of therapists that weren't going to accept insurance. But instead, they said, okay, we're going to tackle that. And then poof, here they are, they're unicorn status. So we look at the key lesson, they're addressing accessibility which everybody can do in a high demand services market, therefore driving adoption. So if someone's got insurance and they need to go get a therapist, they've got the friction, and instead you say, all right, just come to us and we'll bill your insurance. We'll accept it. We'll take care of all the muss for you, all the muss and the fuss. Therefore, people are going to adopt the way in finding a therapist that way instead of going and getting referrals or Googling locally. They don't know who to talk to, which is a friction point for a lot of people I know. I've gone through many, many years of therapy. Finding a therapist can be extremely difficult, and then let alone one that accepts insurance, has high standards that way. This is pretty cool because the insurance company wants to approve the therapist before they're going to pay it. Well, now we're relieving that pain point, and that's a niche and very timely problem. More and more people want therapy these days. Well, unicorn it is. Finally, we have Rentberry. And there are a lot of platforms out there that basically allow you to go and find rental services. You can apply online and you can do everything that you need to go get a place to live. But here's where Rentberry was a little different. To the tune of a $1 billion valuation in 2024, they focused on long-term rental property marketplace. So long-term rentals, they saw that it was an underserved niche. It was a gap because everyone's doing Airbnb. And they said, we're going to focus on long-term, and they are all over the world. Like, I looked at their website, and just go take a look. They're all over the place. And then here's the problem that they solved. Not only did they find the niche of long-term rentals, but they digitized the rental process with tools like bidding and digital leases. It turns out that they're still using old-fashioned ways in this industry for the long-term rental. So not only you got a niche, but that niche is antiquated. It's got so much friction. So they basically digitized everything. And you see it right there. You can negotiate your rent and apply online. It's just really straightforward. And not only that, you can list it, but as a renter, you can see whether something's high demand. You can start to negotiate bidding. Guess what? You've democratized it. You created access, and it's worldwide for long-term rentals. So I'm sitting around talking to other people, and I say, I need a long-term rental. Instead of someone saying Airbnb or going to local listings, they say, go to Rentberry, and this is the site that specializes it and takes care of all the problems for you. The lesson here is the same, as I've said. Streamline manual processes in high-demand markets ensures success. If you can go and find the manual process in a high-demand market, well, you have a chance to go unicorn, especially using AI these days. But let's talk about this here for a moment. You have to have domain expertise in the manual process. I don't want you to just go and look and say, hey, guess what? That's manual, so we're going to put it into some sort of automated process using AI. If you can't bring a special, unique process, a special sauce to what is being automated, well, you're going to have issues. You got to bring a specialized data set, specialized training. So I just want to encourage you, focus on your domain expertise. I see way too many founders pick something that they have no experience in, and they go, I'm going to go do it. Now, that might be you. Then go find experts and advisors and learn the friction points of the problem. In fact, I would suggest go learn how to do it manually yourself and how difficult that is, and slowly start to see if you can create a digitized process because you understand all the nooks and crannies, all the nuances, all the pain points that they go through with that manual process. So what is the lesson they're taking away? And I just want to make an argument for focusing on a timely niche because too many founders go out and they pick a broad problem. If you focus on a timely niche, here are the benefits. One, less competition. You're going to avoid those really competitive general markets where there's a big player. So you'll fly under the radar. Fly under the radar, and then surprise, we come and we're eating your lunch in this particular segment. So focus on that niche. If you have a big player in your market, well, that's a good sign. They're probably not doing some things. So find out, focus on that niche, and fly under the noses of your competitors. Next, clear target audience. When you have a niche, you know your customer. If you go out and yell in a crowd, hey, you who need to eat food, well, you're going to not know who to market to because they're all going to have different variations. But if you go out to a crowd and say, hey, all of you who love Chinese food, great, that's even better. And then you say, hey, all of you who like dim sum, which is great. And then, hey, all of you who want to eat dim sum but have it delivered to your door, that's even better. That allows you to target your niche. It leads you to focus your marketing. You get better messaging. It's more effective, and product market fit is going to be so much easier. Remember, product market fit is not the entire market. If you get product market fit and velocity with a specific market, investors are going to love you. Now we got efficient use of resources. When you focus, you can serve a smaller, well-defined market than being spread thin. This is all, when you sell to everyone, you sell to no one. But when you try to sell to everyone, you start spending all your money, and your marketing bets, your selling bets, those resources are spread so thin, you don't know which one is actually working. You don't know how to calculate ROI. So if you focus on a particular niche, you can go in and experiment, and then if it works, you can double down and generate that ROI and show investors for every dollar we spend on this niche, we get $2 back, $5 back, and that's what investors love to hear. Finally, it's easier differentiation. You can stand out and build unique value propositions, crucial for customer acquisition and retention. Let me give you an example here of one company I've been following that did make unicorn last year, but I kept it off because it's AI. I'm talking about Perplexity, and I was watching an interview with the CEO of Perplexity, and someone was praising the CEO because a year ago they said, we're not going to try and build our own model, even though they could have. We're going to focus on a niche, and it's search. So now when we think about OpenAI and we think about chat, we think about GPTs, we think about custom GPTs, obviously think about OpenAI and GPT. But slowly, I've been thinking about search related to Perplexity. When I think about searching, I go to Perplexity first now. Obviously, I start generally talking to ChatGPT, but Perplexity has niched themselves so well that my behaviors have adapted to the search, and they are doing a great job because OpenAI, ChatGPT, truth be told, hallucinates quite a bit. They're getting better, but Perplexity, because they're connected with Anthropic and the Sonnet models, the hallucinations have gone down. And I've experienced this. I tell my friends this, the community at large, we all start saying, hey, guess what? ChatGPT is great for this thing, but we do search with Perplexity. I also use other models that way. I use Claude 3.5 from Anthropic for certain creative endeavors because they've niched themselves. And there are different types of tools that I've used for different niche jobs or niche pain points that I have. And that's how you can slowly start to wedge yourself in there and get to unicorn status. So make sure you differentiate because it's so much easier to do that. But the final most important thing that I want you to look at based on this list, do all these 4 things, but you must solve a real problem. And that is where founders, a lot of you get caught creating a solution that looks for a problem. I think this is going to be cool. Let's use AI for this. Let's use blockchain for that. Let's build this. Let's build that. And you might think it's cool, but if you're not solving a real problem that's well-timed in the marketplace, nobody is going to care. So you should spend time validating. And let me just say, if you're doing anything in AI, you need to be researching out there. Because think about it just for a moment. When OpenAI came out with their operator model, how many startups did they make obsolete? How many millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars did they wipe off the cap tables of these startups saying, we're going to do agents because ChatGPT is this behemoth? I had the same experience. Last year, I invested not a lot of money, okay, good enough money, 6 figures worth of money into an AI-based model that I thought was kind of a nook and cranny that ChatGPT wasn't looking. And then they came out with their custom GPT store. They came out with the ability to create custom GPTs. And that was my solution, and I was blown out of the water because they're not going to let me come in and do that underneath their noses. They knew ahead of time, and I didn't do enough research to understand that that's where they were thinking. Every single week, more and more AI companies are coming out with more ideas. There are more agents trying to solve different problems. I saw the list of all the agents out in the market right now. My goodness, I was like, man. And that, as an investor, I get scared away from AI agents right now because I think about all the competition out there. And so I'm not an expert anymore. It's not in my lane. And so if you're doing anything with AI, you better have researched what is happening in the marketplace. And you better make sure that you're able to explain those investors, or you're going to be one of those casualties that gets blown out of the water because one of these companies that have got billions of dollars of funding is going to come out with a new innovation, a new type of model that's going to blow you out of the water. And you're going to be a very, very sad unicorn because you're not even going to become a unicorn in the future. That's it. I hope this is helpful. I'm going to put some other videos on the screen that are going to be relevant to you, especially in this series of analyzing those unicorn startups, the new ones in 2024. Check that out. Watch the other videos. And remember, focus on finding a problem in a timely niche, and you'll be just fine. Let me know what you think. Thanks for hanging out in this video. I will see you in the next one.